We have thousands of potential hostages sitting there. Our military left, and now we're trying to get our military back there. And you know what we were doing, and I think you know this very well, we had it set up really well. I spoke with the heads of the Taliban. I had very, very tough conversations. They knew they'd be held to pay if anything happened like this. And by the way, who could even think a thing like this could happen? But they knew they'd be held to pay, and it would start right at their village.
President Trump on Greg Kelly Reports last night describing the situation in Afghanistan as a major hostage crisis. Our panel returns here with reaction. Derek, Carl, Amy. Amy, I'm going to start with you. You quoted somebody in one of your tweets which says, first, you bring out all the U.S. citizens, then you bring out all equipment, then you bomb the bases to smithereens, then you bring out the military. You don't do it in reverse order like Biden and our woke generals did. No chaos, no death. They wouldn't even know we left. Who were you quoting?
Ooh, a man with common sense and who's fearless. It is President Donald J. Trump. And
number
that
45,
also,
as you identified him.
Yes, number 45. Yes, and he is spot on with that. And I think for the most part, you don't have to have a military background. You have to have common sense in order to see that this would have been the correct way to evacuate, to make sure that we had as many people safe as possible, whether they be Afghans who assisted the Americans or the American citizens themselves. We are seeing video footage after video footage all over the place. Even my 11-year-old son came up to me, who just has fun on social media. He is now seeing videos being passed around of little children that are being either beaten up, left for dead, or being passed along from hand to hand, from stranger to stranger. And he has asked me, Mom, will they come here? For sure they won't come here because America has the strongest military, right? I mean, this is awful. This is criminal, and there are a lot of unanswered questions.
Unanswered questions, including the Pentagon not knowing even how many people are still there. Listen.
The State Department would be a better place to go for an estimate of how many Americans are in Afghanistan or in and around Kabul. That is not a figure that the United States military would know. And I think, as you also know, not every American citizen in another country, there's no obligation that they register their presence.
Yes, so we may not know, Carl, how many people are there for sure, but I don't think they have a clue.
We're talking Afghanistan, right? We're talking Afghanistan. I would think that our government, in such a tense area,
you check in, right?
No,
you would typically check in.
Well, here's the thing: people need to be fired over this. There's just no question about it. At the State Department, at the Pentagon, we need to have accountability. Heads must roll, because this is a level of ineptitude and incompetence that is unparalleled in American history. This is just they tried to leave Afghanistan in the worst possible way, and they've left our civilians hanging in the lurch. They've been too concerned, by the way, Bob, with personal pronouns and critical race theory training sessions at the military bases and at the State Department. This is what the woke
military.
A bunch of weaklings to try to do a tough job. You get incompetence, and you get a situation that has spiraled literally out of control.
And this affects everybody. I don't know if we have a poll, but we've had a number of polls come out about how people are feeling, their optimism or lack thereof. Do we have that? Okay. But this is actually making people feel, Derek, worse about the leadership in the country, worse about their own personal outlooks for their future. This has repercussions.
I think it does. And I think that it shows that basing a presidential campaign on "I'm not Donald Trump" is obviously good enough to be elected, but it's not enough it's not good enough to sustain a presidency. There has to be some sort of qualitative leadership in place to address the issues that come up. And I think that whether it's Afghanistan or whether it's inflation or whether it's COVID, I think a lot of people are starting to get the right idea, and the optimism that we were told was there early in the year is starting to wane. And I think, unless the Biden administration gets its act together and gets these people all on the same page and at least shows some humility and acknowledge mistakes, I think the optimism is going to continue to tail off.
Yeah, and the other odd thing to me about this, Heather, is how this was a man who was supposed to be the feeling man. He's lost members of his family. I see your silhouette. We're trying to keep your identity hidden.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to know that that's Heather Childers sitting there. But this is so strange from the man who made his reputation as the feeling person. He seemed really callous talking about what's going on over there.
Yes. I think that may be more so than anything else, and all of it is horrific, start to finish. But the fact that President Biden is not leading this country right now, coming out, talking to people and taking questions, because everyone has a lot of questions, and I think they're very, very valid, including, as we were discussing, how many Americans are there? How are we going to get them out safely? Why are we depending on the word of the Taliban to get them to the Kabul airport safely? And that's just the very beginning. The very least, he needs to address the American people and take questions.
Yeah.
Bob, I wanted to mention to you that yesterday there was a poll by Rasmussen, and they actually said that when they asked the question of the voters, how would you rate the way President Biden is handling national security issues? And it was a very high number. It was 48% in the poor category. That's not good.
Do you know what, Amy? That's perfect, because that teases what we're going to talk about in our next block coming up after this break. So